All right, so we're here with Mike Lachance, and we're at House Lachance. You've only lived here a year, right?
About a year and a half, 2 years now, right?
You were telling me you sold the farm. You just want no more farm life for you. That's it, done.
Well, it wasn't exactly a big farm, or a training center. It was just a fun farm. I had 16 acres with 10 stalls, and it was just a turnout farm. But my house was on a farm, was built on a farm, and basically we weren't using the farm to get the turnout from people, and it was just for Patrick's horses and mine there.
So now, first question. All right, you're kind of half retired. You're not really fully retired. You help your son Pat, right, out in the mornings training.
I'm retired from driving.
Retired from driving
for sure,
but not from the horses.
Or definitely not, because I still own a piece of I don't know, 14, 15 horses right now between my two sons. I have some with Patrick and some with Martin in Toronto.
Okay.
Yeah.
How good of friends are you with Jimmy Tactor?
Oh, he was a good friend of mine.
Okay, so he's in his
we
first...
We don't socialize but... Yeah.
You're not best buddies, but he's into his first year of retirement. Nobody ever retires, right? He'll be...
But before he retired, he talked to me about it there at Lexington. We were looking at the yearling, and he took me aside, and he started to talk to me about that. He must have talked to me about it for at least half an hour.
Okay.
Just to give me give him some.
What do I do? Do I take up bowling? Do I go skydiving? What was one thing that you did out of, I don't want to say character, first year that you stopped driving? Was there anything crazy? Did you go traveling? Did you try something new?
I traveled a little more the first couple of years that I stopped with my wife, but the main thing that when I retired that we start to enjoy, it's going out to eat in the restaurant, because all my life I could never go out and eat on Saturday night, because Saturday night I was always at the track. On my way to the track, sometimes I used to see family going into nice restaurant, and I said that's one thing. And I don't know, my wife is here to tell you, we didn't miss too many Saturday night.
Best restaurant, do you go, if you're traveling, do you go to a city for the food, or do you go to a city and then find great food? So you mean top 3 restaurants you visited, or cities, since you've been retired?
Oh, we've been all over. We've been all over the place there. But there's not one city that we could say. We like all kinds of food. Okay. And sometimes one of our favorite restaurants is right here.
Right down the road?
Yes. And we like to go to the city sometime to eat. We like steak. And we go all over. And like in the last 2 winter, we spend about 10 days in Puerto Vallarta.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I have a friend of mine that we grew up together, and as a beautiful place in Puerto Vallarta. So the last 2 years we spent about 10 days there. I really, really, really like it there. It's relaxing, and there's no horses around.
No horses.
Because the year before I went to Florida, and we stayed there for 2 weeks, but the last week was gone. Every day we have to go to the one guy. I don't want to hurt his feeling, and go out to eat and go out to eat. So there was no vacation for her. I was right back on the track.
Now we're in full vacation mode, and you're enjoying it, right?
Oh, definitely.
But you still watch the horses. You still I know that you're never going to really not be involved, right?
Oh, definitely not. Yeah. I want to be involved, because horses is my life.
Yeah.
And I'm not a golfer. I don't watch sports that much. I said that many times before. I'm a very boring guy. I like to take care of my horses, the family, and I watch every race that Patrick's in, or that horses that racing from the barn. And especially summertime. Winter time, I'm going to watch the weekend horses race in Toronto. And I do that on Sunday morning when I get up.
Okay.
I get on the computer and I go back to the racetrack from the night before, the one that I want to see. And summertime, the big stake race, I don't try to miss it. I like to see some of the big race, like especially the jog or the Hambo. But a lot of stake race there, all the Breeders' Crown, and I try to follow that. The best 2-year-old, 3-year-old. So I stay in touch.
Okay, how often now? How many sons do you have?
2.
2. Okay. Any daughters?
Yes, I have 1 daughter.
Okay. Are they? Is she involved in the?
No.
Okay.
She's not involved with the horses at all.
So we got 2 sons involved with the horses.
Yes.
How often, even to this day, were you at the barn jogging this morning?
Every day.
Okay. How many times? Be honest. In the wife's there too. She'll let me know how many times up until this day do you ever remind Pat? Listen, if you get into disagreement about training, Pat, I won 4 Hambletonians.
No, never.
No,
never,
never.
I never tell him that, and I never. We very very rarely talk about the big races that I won in my life. But the disagreement about training, a lot.
And is that where you kind of throw out your resume? Pat, listen.
No.
Listen to me.
Never.
No.
I tell him things that happened to me in the past with certain horses there, but I try to tell him all the thing that I know about horses there.
And you guys come up with a decision.
Definitely. And I learned from him. And I'm sure you learn from me something. And the same thing with my other son, Martin, the same thing. We try to, but disagreement, yes.
Okay, well, when you work together, that's always going to happen. Pat and Martin, they're 40s, late 30s, right?
In 40s,
okay,
early 40s.
And both of them probably wanted to follow in your footsteps and drive and train.
Yeah, but I never tell them things to do. And like Martin don't drive, but Patrick, all those years, I never criticize his drives and things like that. The only thing sometimes if he does something that I think that's going to get him in trouble, but not even lately. Like when he was younger.
Sure, yeah. When you remember what it was like to be 20. You want to fight the world, right?
Nobody can learn how to drive a horse by asking somebody else.
Okay.
You learn on your own.
Okay.
You learn by your mistake, and you learn. That's how you build your.
So you didn't really have too many issues, even when they were hitting 20, 22, and they wanted to start their own driving and training career. You didn't really have any issues with them as far as disagreements. Then.
No, I didn't want them to be in a business.
You didn't want them?
No. Because I knew how tough that business was.
I think every business is the same thing, where the father never wants the kids because they all know the business. No matter what business it is. Horse racing, carpeting, roofing, construction.
And it's even tougher for a young man that any sport that his father had some success there, so they try to compare, and you can't compare. You can't compare 2 great drivers from the different era.
Sure.
So that's the same thing. Who was the best 30 years ago? I could tell you 4 or 5 that were at that time, but it goes by a decade, and some they were great enough that they were good for 2 or 3 decades. But there's not one guy that was he was the best. They were the best of their time.
Yeah. Where did you start driving? You're from Quebec?
Yeah.
Okay. So did you? How long did you drive in Quebec before you moved down south?
Oh, I started to come to the States very early. I started driving in Quebec City in 1967.
Okay.
And the next year, 1968, I started to come and race in the Batavia, New York, Buffalo. 68, 69. 70, Foxborough,
So you started moving your way down?
Every year I was going to 72, I think. I raced in Toronto the whole summer. 73, I started to go to Liberty Bell and Brandywine, and back then there was the great circuit there. And I raced there for like 4 or 5 years. And then I came back to Montreal in 76. I raced there until 82. 82, I came to New York. Okay.
Now, in that whole time you were kind of traveling, the Hambletonian was still out in Illinois, at DuQuoin.
Yeah, in DuQuoin.
So what was your... It wasn't in New Jersey, so you still had, you know, half a country between you and the Hambletonian where it was.
But honestly, in the 70s there, I didn't even worry about the Hambletonian because it was so far away.
It's so far away.
I had like the racehorse stable. I had some nice horses, but it was a racehorse stable, and I wasn't thinking about stake horses back then and things like that. It was more my stable, and I owned a lot of my own horses back then. And but the Hambletonian, basically, it's only like when I came down to New York that we start to worry about that.
When it moved to the Meadowlands, probably too?
Yeah.
So those first, I mean, the first 10, 15 years of your driving career, it's out in Illinois. It's just a race out there. Did you? What was it like?
We knew that there was it was something special, but basically until you get there and you're in it, especially back in DuQuoin, that must have been something very, very special. But you know, I didn't know that how great it was, the Hambletonian, and the same thing with the Little Brown Jug. You know, the first time I went to see a Little Brown Jug was in 71, and I was racing in Toronto back then.
You actually went there, or did you drive in it?
No. I
just went there as a fan?
Yeah, I just went to see it, and I had to sleep in the car because I couldn't get a room. And I was a young man. I was like 20 years old. So and that's when I saw. Oh, I was impressed. I said maybe one day I'll have a horse that could come to a race like that, but I never thought that I could be so successful.
And how many Little Brown Jugs did you end up winning?
5.
5.
Yeah.
Did you, the first one you won, did you think back to the time of the first time you went as a fan?
Definitely.
And you're like, I can't believe I'm here?
Yeah, definitely. And I told that story to a million people that I came down to watch the jog and I couldn't find a room, so I had to sleep in the car in the cornfield. What
was your first Hambletonian experience live? Was it were you racing that day? Did you just go as a fan?
No, I raced. I raced in it. It was 88 at the medal.
Yeah, 88 was
88,
at the
88, and I drove a horse for the Haughton stable, and he was a big long shot, and I finished back with him.
That was in the Hambletonian or just on the day?
In a Hambletonian.
Okay.
Might have been 87. In 88.
Well, 87 was Maclo Bell.
No, so then that would maybe it was.
It was Armborough Goal, I want to say.
Yeah,
I'm pretty good at this.
Yeah. Anyway, he was like a long shot, a 90-to-1 shot, and I finished back with him. My first Hambletonian that I raced that I was a contender was basically I think it was Embassy Bell that I finished second. If I had to do that race all over again, I would win.
Why? What happened there?
I in a final there.
Was it driver error? Drivers never want to say that. No,
it was after the race.
Okay.
It was after the race because I would never say that I could win it if we had to do it all over again. But back then there was a front runner in the race, and I had the 2-hole or the rail. I think it's the 2-hole with Embassy Bell, and John Campbell at the rail, and he's the one that won.
Okay.
But instead of leaving the gate and start to get in a 2-hole, I should have taped back behind John.
Okay.
So he did the right thing. He came first up. He sat next to me and in the stretch.
Ah, okay. So you got boxed in and couldn't shake free late.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
So That's one of the only race. I'm sure there's some other one, but that I regret what I done after the race.
Even when you finish second, you still you still wanted to be better. Is that something that just all throughout your career you always wanted to be better?
You know, I told many people, that especially young people that start in the business, my best quality I had, I was always able to turn the page.
Okay.
Great night, I turned the page.
Bad night, turn the page.
Turn the page. I never beat myself up. And if I had like a bad night or a race that I want to do it all over again, when it's finished at night,
learn and move on.
My wife is right here. She never see me cry after the races and things like that. Did I had a hard time to go to sleep?
But by the time he drives home, he got all of it out and comes home?
I was with him and I was driving, he was sleeping right there.
Okay.
And I always turn the page. And that was a big problem for a lot of young guys. They can't turn the page over a great night. They think it's going to
keep going.
It's going to be forever. And a bad night, they come and go.
Okay, I'm going to give you an easy one here. How long have you been married?
46 years.
Quick, anniversary. What's your anniversary? Quick.
August 11.
Is that good? That was pretty good, huh? Okay. Okay. This is the easy question. If you didn't have your wife for all these years in support, would you still be as good of a driver as you were?
No. It's impossible.
Perfect, right? Perfect.
It's impossible if you don't have a... And she never stuck her nose into my business.
Okay, okay.
Never criticized my driving. I'm not saying that even if a wife would criticize the husband, but she didn't know much about horses.
Never got mad at the other drivers. Never had to hold her back. She never wanted to go after another.
She got mad at me one night.
She got mad at you.
Yeah, because I won a race. But it's funny the way I came back from the races that night, and she says, "Patrick, he finished second in a race that you beat him."
Oh, okay.
So I said, "Yeah." She says, "Don't tell me that you couldn't get there just a little bit late and let him win."
You passed him.
Yeah.
Oh, so mom came in. Her mom.
Exactly.
Okay, so she's.
And I start to laugh, and I said, "No." I said, "That's not the way he's going to learn. He's going to learn. He's got to win."
Okay. So with you, she was just whatever wife, but Mama Bear comes out.
Yeah, exactly.
So she was more.
That's the only time, basically, that she criticized for me to the way I drove a race or something. She said, "You could get
couldn't
there
let
maybe
him
a little
win
later.
Couldn't let my baby boy win, right?"
Yeah.